The idea that we're going to talk about is the number one idea we talk when we deliver the Tough Money curriculum and live events. This idea of the inconvenient truth, Kyle. So what are we going to talk about today?
I love that. So we're going to be going over what we call the tough money levels tonight. And all of you that are either on the call tonight, already working with us, you already understand whole life as the foundational asset on your balance sheet. We'd call it the toughest asset you're going to own. When you understand that asset, you start to open up your mind to the world of banking and how that really affects all the financial decisions we have over time. That's where you find books like behind David and I, the Becoming Your Own Banker or the Infinite Banking Concept. And in order to make all of that successful and work, what you're investing in, where you save in, what strategies that you're using to go from point A in your wealth journey to point B, all of that takes certain habits that really affect your wealth plan. We call this idea the inconvenient truth because here's the reality. There's no product, there's no service, there's no magical pill that gets you from where you're currently at to the level of wealth that you want that unlocks the ideal life. It requires work. No one is coming to save us. And this idea has been tossed around numerously in the last few months when we've been doing some of these masterminds, but this idea of a fiduciary, someone that you can bring into your financial world that's going to give you like all the insights and ideas. And it was interesting because I feel like that used to be a term, David, that was like really respected. Oh, they're a fiduciary. They're going to come in and tell me everything I should be doing. In reality, we all need to become our own fiduciaries. No one's going to care about the Fuller family's wealth plan more than my wife and I. Yeah. And if we don't take it seriously, the inconvenient truth is nothing else that we're going to participate in is going to be that effective. And so we're going to go deep tonight on this idea and questions around like, why do my habits affect my wealth plan? Yeah. And I think once you see this tonight, one, you're going to have a really good idea of where to go in the future, but you're going to have the exact roadmap to do this with less time and with less risk.
Yeah. Please take me up on this. The first thing I'm going to ask everyone in the call, if you're taking notes, write down this question so it's meaningful for you to spend an hour with us. The question, and write it in your own words. The way we ask this question is, why or how do my habits affect my wealth plan? Call it my abundance plan, my ability to grow financially, whatever you want to call it. Write that down and use it as a center for you to find the answers as we present this content. We're going to connect how your habitual behavior is going to affect your relationship with money in this framework, Kyle. So, as always, let's use a grounding framework to talk about this, Kyle, the path of money.
So we've shown this framework many, many times, and basically there's two parts to your wealth plan. There's something called an income statement. That's money that's flowing in and out of your life. And then below that, you have what's called a balance sheet. That's where the money that's left over, you start to own and control assets and investments. And so if we look at this really briefly, and I love this framework, David, because I've heard you say this many times, this is something you could turn over on the back of a napkin and teach your teenage children about how money works fundamentally. And this is also something that you could use with your board of advisors for your company, saying, we've got money moving in and out of the company. What do we actually own as a company? How are we tracking this stuff? And this is such a simple visual that allows you to get great clarity and perspective. So as money's coming into our life, that's money we're actively working for. There's only four things we can do with it. Number one, we can spend it. Number two, we can donate it. And after we've done those two things, typically the third thing we can do is hold it, which is savings. Anything that's left over after spending it and donating it is called savings. Now, where you hold that money makes a remarkably big difference. The foundational assets you choose to save and store your money in can be the make it or break it point between getting to your wealth goals and it taking way longer, more risk, more noise included in there. And if we can do those first three things right, spend enough, donate enough, save enough, then you get to do the really cool stuff, which is what everyone actually wants to do, which is the investing. Yeah. And I think we've been sold this idea primarily from banks and Wall Street. Hey, bypass that third spot, just to hold it, and move it right to the automatic invest it category. Yeah. And this is a conversation we're going to kind of flip upside down. And if your sequence and your path of money is not correct, you are waking up every day and you have some type of financial pressure in your life. We absolutely know it because we analyze thousands of these every single year.
Absolutely. Well, the second note, the second thing to write in your notebook, if you're taking notes, is this: my habits, my habitual behavior with money has to do with what I do with the income I earn. And there's four things that are included in my habits. I can spend money, donate money, hold money, or invest money. That idea in the right amounts with the proper sequence will describe whether you have abundance and well-being or you have financial pressure. Very, very important idea. Do not dismiss the simplicity because it's very profound in its wisdom. So, Kyle, that's the path of money. And based on that context, and likely if you're part of our community, you're working with one of our agents, the conversation is going to be this. Okay, if we're going to talk about wealth building, not just insurance, but we're going to talk holistically about your relationship with money, let's get clear about the key performance indicators, the KPIs, or the variables that are most important for us to size your financial life. There's going to be three things. The number one wealth comparison we're going to use is, hey, what's your net worth? The difference between somebody with $100 million in net worth or $100,000 explains the different parts of the game they're in, okay? The number doesn't matter. You just need to become aware of where you are so you can create a plan for progress. We are going to be tracking in this an example of a family that is at the top 10 level percent of income earners in the country. So the numbers here, if they seem small, add zeros to make it relevant to your life. If they're too big, take zeros away. The principle is what we want you to capture. So the top 10% American family has around $840,000, $850,000 of net worth. Net worth being, if I sell everything I own, I pay the debts, how much is my actual equity that I own on things that I own and control? And the two things that are the most important tools to continue to build on that wealth, on that net worth, are their income and their liquidity, Kyle. So likely, if you know these three numbers, you have a very good model to size your financial life, Kyle. And if we take these numbers and we map them on top of a path of money analysis, you get to start getting a visual representation of how money is flowing through your life. Income here at the top, net worth, the size of your balance sheet, and liquidity as a percentage of your total balance sheet or your liquid net worth. This is powerful because, Kyle, with further investigation, you get to fill this out with more and more information. Hey, as a percentage of your balance sheet, you have 6% of liquid assets in your balance sheet. The rest is investment, $790,000 in investment net equity, 94%. By the way, that is producing $960 a month in cash flow. This is my spending, Kyle, which means that I get to save 8% or $12,000. This is a conversation that allows you to get closer to your money. So if you've never put this together, another piece of recommendation, please take me up on this, is reach out to the person that invited you to this call and ask them, hey, can you help me create a path of money analysis for my family, for my business? We do this every day, every week, and it's going to bring so much clarity for you to have better quality conversations with your spouse, with your children, with your business partners, whoever it's part of your financial life is going to bring you clarity and is going to bring you perspective, Kyle.
That's it.
Now, when we talk about clarity and perspective, I want to bring something to all of you, Kyle, and I'm going to flash this one here. I want you to notice the change. I'm going to go back and forth. This is the top 10% American family, and I like for you to explain the contrast we're going to create to some of the communities we serve, like the Keller Williams wealth community and the average investor in that community, for us to see even further the value of this path of money analysis, Kyle.
Yeah, and notice what's happening there. Liquidity is getting substantially larger. We're shaving down how much of this money we're spending. We're converting more of it to savings. And those are just what we call tough money management habits. And I'll tell you, if you can't get good with a little bit of money, you won't magically become good with a lot of money once that active income goes up to 200, 300, 500,000 a year. And so we're very blessed that we get to go into a lot of different wealth masterminds to teach a lot of this foundational wealth. And one of the rooms that we're in is called KW Wealth. It's the largest real estate company in the world, which is Keller Williams. They have a wealth building community that's about 4 years old. And it is the best investment conversation I have ever seen by a long shot. Their investing conversation around creating passive income, most of their conversation is centered around real estate. And one of the reasons why they brought our company in is to help facilitate what's happening in the first part of their path of money. How are they spending, donating, where they're saving, how much they're saving. All of those things are what we specialize in to make sure that these investors are tougher with their foundation so they can keep doing what they're doing at an even greater, more exponential level. And what you'll notice here is average investor in some of the rooms has a much higher income, top 5%, almost getting close to top 1% income. They're saving at least 30% of their income. Yeah. They're donating some. They've got their expenses down. They're not what we call, they've eliminated low value spending. So they're very intentional about where their money's flowing. They get that money flowing into the right cash environments. And more importantly, they hold a lot more liquidity than what we're typically seeing all across the country. And I'll tell you one thing about wealthy investors is they understand the value of having cash on hand. Now, if you've got that cash positioned in the right assets, then that makes a world of difference with the efficiency. But the purpose of winning financially is to keep winning. And so what good would it be, David, if we spent 10 years building this $3 million net worth, if all of that was in investable assets and we had very little cash on hands, cue an event like COVID, if suddenly your business gets shut down for 3 to 6 months and you don't have any cash to float yourself, hopefully you've got passive income coming in, because if you don't, you're in a world of hurt. And now you're probably forced to sell off a lot of those assets on your balance sheet just to convert it to cash to save your buns through that event.
Yeah.
And so having this ratio of how much do I hold, how much do I invest is all becomes clear and apparent through this path of money analysis.
Yeah. And this call is different because in this call, we have a group of our clients, likely people that are engaged. So I want to make something very clear and important that you said this. This green box is something you already are building. By owning whole life insurance as a place where you store money, it's not an investment. It's not a yellow box asset. It's a green asset. Number one, the first thing we get to do is place it in the proper category for us to understand it better. Number two, because you already own whole life insurance, you've been building some of the most efficient environments, maximizing the benefits for the liquidity you're accumulating in that cash value. And I want to encourage you to think about this. That cash value is the smallest it's ever going to be today.
Yep.
That cash value is the smallest it's ever going to be today. Tomorrow is going to be larger, and the day after that larger. And this is not something we think. This is something we know. The reason it has that certainty and guarantee is why we've been insisting in delivering education to you for you to understand it better. So your path of money overall, when you zoom out and your relationship with money gets more certain, more guaranteed, more protected. So you have permission to go and then invest in things you know and understand, to take risk, to go pursue upside, to create wealth. This is the reason why we've introduced all of you to using life insurance as a storage environment for your liquidity. And hopefully it encourages you to do it at a more meaningful level every year, every month that you see this education. So contrast, perspective, clarity here with path of money. What we're going to do now, Kyle, is show everyone what this path of money analysis could look like if you work with one of our agents to perform this analysis for you. We're going to follow step by step. You should be prepared to have a 30-minute call later this week, tomorrow, next week, with your agent to say, hey, can you bring me that perspective? I want to get very clear about how life insurance and my infinite banking process fits into my wealth plan moving forward. So what you see here on the screen is likely the tools we would use for that. The sheet on the left is a sheet that we use to specifically do this path of money analysis, and we're going to introduce every single one of these frameworks for you to be very familiar with them if you're part of our community. On the right, you likely have seen this sheet in one of our Tough Money workbooks if you've gone to our Tough Money course. If you haven't, I cannot ask you, please, more consider spending the time. It's education that is going to bring a completely set of new habits to your family. It's going to change the trajectory to never repeat things that you don't want financially in your life with the next generation moving forward. So it's a way to create the ability to thrive through whatever event comes in the future. So I'm going to start with the sheet on the left, Kyle, and let's walk through that. So if we are in a room with a client in a Zoom meeting, how are we going to walk through this? We're going to want to understand what their current situation is family-wise. Who are the core people that we need to consider protecting in their family, right?
Got some key relationships on there, right? People
Yes.
that depend or we're directly in business with. That would be my spouse, my children. So I want to know who are we working with here?
Right.
And so obviously that's general information we're going to have on there. That will influence definitely how we're going to start one of these plans as well.
Conversation. The second thing we're going to talk about is, hey, what's your current financial goal, Kyle? So how do we think about the goal, the future that we're trying to create?
And I think everyone would go back to like our idea around the 5 areas of life. The purpose of winning financially is not to have a higher wealth score.
No.
You know, if you've got a $15 million net worth, but you're miserable in the other areas of life, what good? I mean, I guess it sounds cool to tell people you're worth that much, but if you don't have, you know, the marriage isn't in place, the kids, the relationships with people around you in all areas of life, spiritually, personal, family, if those areas are in shambles, what was the point of winning financially, right?
Yeah.
So in this case, usually the goals that we're working with people in our community, they want to increase their net worth, which means I want to get wealthier up to a certain point so that in 10 years I have enough passive income to fund the ideal life.
Yeah.
Most of the goals with people work with sound very much like that. It's not, I want to be worth $50 million because that just sounds better than anyone else. There's a reason to it. I want higher net worth to have higher passive income so I can go on more vacations with my family. I can drive the car I want, live in the home I want, give the kind of money I want to the charities and causes. That's typically how the goals would sound.
Yeah. So a pro tip, what Kyle is saying is really important. Make sure this is an internal scorecard, not an external scorecard. This is not what other people think. This is what you truly want, number one. And the pieces that we would encourage you to consider are this. The wealth you're building, hopefully is significant and relevant for you to feel proud of how productive you've been. They're a measure of your productivity, right? And you need to give that a timeline. Hey, I would like to get to this point in 5 years, 10 years. I can promise you it's not the 30 or 40 years that most Americans are on the path of because they accumulate and distribute like the traditional financial planning. That is not what we're talking about here. Intentionally, if I were to build this network in a time frame that is reasonable to me to go all in and get my education and my implementation ready, 10 years in this case, how much income would that allow me to create that impacts my daily life, my freedom? And a lot of people that think in this term get very focused. I know I need this amount of assets creating this cash flow for me to decide if I want to go out to work or not, for me to decide if I want to continue to be part of my business, for me to decide how to use my time with my family, with who, when, how, right? So the freedom conversation, get very intentional about that. Kyle, now we get into a set of questions here. So the question number one you all can expect is we're going to talk about what is your current income, right? And we're going to ask you, hey, this number here, 150 for example, is all the money pouring through your life in gross terms before you pay taxes. Your spouse income, your income, if anyone else is generating income, if you have income from a business, what's the profit distribution you're receiving on that K1? Think about the money that's pouring through the top of the funnel and get that in paper as a total gross number for the household. I'll tell you, one of the things that this is very useful for is your spouse and you will get on the same page about, oh, this is exactly how much money is pouring, and you will get quickly perspective for the following reason, Kyle. If you take that number and you compare it to the rest of the country, you start to experience gratitude very quickly.
So what we're looking at here is the U.S. household income split point. So as a family, a household, if you make more than $50,000 per year, you make more than 50% of American households. If you're bringing in close to 150, 170, you're in that top 10% income earning range. And David, we get to share this with thousands of people all across the country. And it is, I mean, nobody's ever on with this the first time they see this. They're all over the place. You got to make $500,000 to be top 10% income earning. Nope, it's very different. And especially when we compare this like worldwide, because I think we can all agree we're very blessed to have uncommonly high incomes and great income opportunities in the United States of America. And it may not be that way in other parts of the world. And so sometimes having the clarity and the perspective on, okay, where we're at is actually an extremely good place to be at.
Yeah.
I'm always in favor of people saying, I got to increase my active income and make more money. I think that's always smart. It's fairly easy to do that in this country. But to have the perspective of let's appreciate where we're currently at, because when you go to play the comparison game, I mean, I'll look at someone like, let's use Gary Keller, for example, multi-billionaire. We got to hear from the guy managing his money about a year ago. Yeah. The things he's buying makes me sit in that room thinking like, what do I even do every week with my life, right? Yeah. But it's the wrong comparison. The comparison is where was Kyle at 10 years ago versus where I'm at today. That's what I want to compare to. And you can't trade someone only one aspect of your life. If you see a guy like Gary, you're going to have to trade everything. You got to give up your kids, go switch them. Nobody really wants to do that. And so, take it from us. Don't play the comparison game. It's you versus you last year. And that's what we need to focus on. So when we compare this to the rest of the world, David, top 1% income worldwide is only $34,000. So even if you make $50,000 on the call tonight, which is an uncommonly high income, you make more money than 50% of Americans, but you make way more money than the top 1% of people worldwide. Yeah. Maybe, just maybe, income is not necessarily the biggest problem we should be addressing. The problem is going to be how much of that are we actually keeping?
Yeah, absolutely. It's perspective. So all of you, I hope that you take your spouse, your children, you hug them, you give them a kiss, and you experience some gratitude tonight because without a question, we're very blessed to be an American and to have the opportunity to earn the incomes we earn. So little perspective there, but getting that on paper and being able to look at a paper with your spouse, with a partner, it brings a lot of clarity. It brings a lot of gratitude. And if that's the top of the funnel, and maybe that's not the problem, like you said, Kyle, maybe we need to look deeper into what's happening after that money comes in for us to understand the root cause of this conversation. I see Wade with your hand up. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would also, I've heard you say this before too, but this is a great assessment for your own personal family and your own, in a personal life. But it's also if you have a business or business partners, this is a great discussion to be having with them as well. So and again, you can be doing with both. The conversations at the dinner table isn't a whole lot different than the conversation around the board table. It's a very much the same conversation, but you can definitely be having these conversations at that level because again your goals hopefully when you business together is pretty much in line, and then once you have that intentionality it's much easier to grow within that. So just don't dismiss this idea of like, yeah, I got a business and my personal stuff is good but my business maybe is a bit of a mess. Apply some of these principles would be really helpful.
Wade, that is such an important, I joke about this all the time. The difference between a personal conversation and a business conversation is that the words get fancier.
Yeah.
But it's the same conversation. We just like to use fancier words to seem like we are fancier than family or normal people, I guess, that are not business owners. If you take this same picture and you replace words, a business expense, right? There's expenses on a business. They spend, yes. Donate, we might call cost of goods sold. When it gets to what's left after you spend and you have cost of goods sold, savings in a business, we may call profit, right? But it's the same activity, the same flow of money. Does a balance sheet have a business? Does a business have a balance sheet where they hold some liquidity or invest some of the assets back into the business? Same exact conversation. So if you want to do this, and as a matter of fact, you would recommend you must have a financial statement for your business, every business you own. You must have a separate, not commingled financial statement for your family. This is a very important exercise that we can use in multiple applications across your life. Absolutely. So really, really important. Okay, let's move on the exercise. Let's get a little, by the way, questions are going to get harder. That's by design. Question number 2, Kyle. What is your current and target net worth? So we write that here, but how do you think about that when you're explaining this in detail to people?
So everyone on the call tonight has the current net worth. That's the most accurate way you could describe what is my score in the money game, right? How do I compare? Where am I at versus where I was at 2 years ago? Net worth is the most accurate representation of how well your family's doing financially. And you have a current net worth. This is what we're currently worth. And then you're going to have a target net worth. You know what? We're currently worth 840 right here at the center, midway down on the screen on the right. But we want to go to 3 million, right? If we're currently worth 840, if we get to a $3 million net worth, that should be a large enough amount of assets to produce enough passive income to set our family free. So no different than if I want to travel somewhere, I need to know my current starting location and I need to know the final destination of where I'm going. If I wanted to go to Newport Beach, California, 5.5 hours to get there, I need the starting and location. And then the GPS or the guiding system it's going to take me there with less time and less risk. If there's an accident, it's going to reroute me. Whatever that is, that's why you have those things. But if you don't have these starting and destinations, you're just drifting around. You'll never accidentally just win the money game. It's impossible.
And that's so important. I hope you all caught that. The end point and the starting point. We talked about the client goal, right? We know where we're going, but we need to understand where we are so we can build a bridge. What kind of bridge do we need? Arch, flat, right? So that's what we're talking about here. Getting very clear as you, as the fiduciary of your life, the leader is the word that I like better. How do I lead? Start by having clarity and perspective. So this is also really important what Kyle just said. Not everyone, so if I have $84,000 on net worth, you have 840 and somebody has 8.4 million, we know where we are compared to each other. But if two people have $840,000 on net worth, not every net worth is created equal. And that's when we need to dig deeper into the nuance of this conversation. This is why we would ask question number 3. Hey, out of a percentage or a total of net worth, Kyle, how much is liquid? of that net worth. So why don't you give us a definition for how you think about that?
So your net worth is going to be comprised of 2 points. How much liquid equity you have, and then how much investment or acceleration equity. That's investments and then very safe, secure assets. We'd also call this foundation and acceleration. If this family we're tracking right now has $50,000 of liquidity, we can do the math, and the rest of it's going to be in investment equity. But I'll tell you, this liquidity number, the higher that number is of your net worth, I can almost guarantee you the less financial pressure you're gonna feel. And this is also where we see a lot of families, David, that might have $800,000 net worth. 3% of it is sitting in cash reserves. Call it 30,000. The other portion is all invested. And if you're like, hey, like, what if an event happens? They're like, oh, I'd have to sell a bunch of stuff just to go fix the problem.
Yeah.
And that person feels a lot of financial pressure. If you get that number up to 10, 15, 20% of your net worth, not only are you more protected, but you're suddenly becoming a magnet for more opportunities in the future.
Yeah.
The game actually gets easier when you understand this sequence and this flow of money.
Yeah. This is really important, guys. $840,000 in net worth compared to other 840 requires nuance for us to understand how it's impacting our life. A key of this will be knowing liquidity. And I can tell you, the person that has $840,000 in cash under their mattress or a single family residence worth $840,000 are not living the same life.
No.
They may be in the same level of wealth, but they're not living the same life. And that's when we need to get very intentional about this. So knowing your liquid net worth will allow us to do some math. Hey, 6% of my balance sheet is liquid. 94% or $790,000 are now invested assets that hopefully are growing for acceleration. And that means that my green box looks like this as a proportion of my balance sheet, and my yellow box looks like that as a proportion of my balance sheet. Very interesting information. I cannot tell you how much people get insight from this. It's so simple. Most people's balance sheet are a mumbo jumbo of assets. I own this and that, and I have no rhyme for it. This will bring you into focus. Risk is only in yellow. Hopefully measure risk to bring upside. No risk on green. Is safe and liquid. Very simple rule. So now, Kyle, perspective. With that clarity, how do we compare this liquidity and this liquid net worth with the rest of the country?
Let's go back to some of the foundational classes we've taught in the past, David. And this is a study that the JP Morgan Chase Institute did, looking at 600,000 small business owners. We're out here in the Phoenix area. You can find where you're at on this U.S. map. Average days of liquidity or cash reserves that businesses in Phoenix have is 25 days. Meaning if their business goes without income for a month, they are feeling serious financial pressure in their life. And I'll tell you, this is just not a fun way to live. It's not a fun way to invest. It's not a fun way to go to work every single day when you know everything kind of has to go according to plan. Otherwise, in 30 days, you're starting to really feel it.
Yeah.
And so this is a symptom of the problem. The problem is we don't understand our path of money. It's not sequenced properly. The symptom is it shows up in days of liquidity. And that's why we walk around. And if you ask any American, 9.9 out of 10 Americans would answer yes to the question, do you ever feel financial pressure? Their answer is yes in every single day of my life.
Yeah, yeah. So really important concept and really important perspective for the following reason. Now that we know our liquidity is $50,000 and we know our balance sheet, $50,000 in absolute numbers, in dollar numbers, doesn't mean much. For somebody worth $5 million, that's very little. For somebody worth $100,000, that's a big number. Somebody that spends $500,000 a year, $50,000 may not represent a lot of days of liquidity. Somebody that spends $50,000 a year, that's a year's worth of liquidity. That's a pretty significant amount of cash. So it's perspective here based on understanding how money flows. Now, let's take it another notch up, because I think this is a question that I think is worth consideration. If we ask someone, hey, your net worth is $840,000, you want to get to $3 million. Let me ask you, what has kept you from reaching your financial goals? What do we typically hear, Kyle?
It could be a number of things. I don't have the right guide. I'm spending too much money. I don't understand this path of money. I don't have the right financial advisor. Whatever it could be a number of things. Life events keep getting in the way. We've heard anything under the sun.
Yeah. And this is when this path of money becomes powerful. The details here matter. For example, let me give you a couple of pieces of insight. Some people may say, hey, we feel like we own all these things, but we don't understand if they're working in harmony or how they're affecting our life right now. This example and is representative of this family, top 10% family. Primary residence, a lot of equity in the primary residence. They have retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, etc. They may have a rental property. They may have a business investment on some friends in business. They may have some bond. Whatever the investment composition is, you need to understand what's inside that balance sheet and ask yourself a question. How is my money working for me? How much cash flow am I generating out of the invested equity I have in my investments? If you do the math here, and I'm going to do terrible math for all of you right now, shamelessly, if you say that your balance sheet is $840,000 or $790,000 of investment, Kyle, and let's say that $960 a month is the cash flow, or $1,000, $12,000. If you take $12,000 and you divide that by $790,000, is going to be
1.5%.
1.5% would be the return on equity of your investment portfolio. If you just bought treasuries with $800,000 at 4%, you would quadruple the cash flow on return there.
With no risk and no noise either.
So not every balance sheet is created equal. Not all assets are created equal. And you have to ask yourself very important questions. By the way, you need to go through our Top Money curriculum and go and visit our investment criteria. When, why, how would I invest? Important questions. Is it for cash flow? In what duration? What level of risk? What level of noise? If you want help with this conversation, you are in the right room with the right community, by the way. But this is an example of what's happening to most people. They feel they're not making progress because their balance sheet looks big, but it's not impacting their daily life because it's not producing additional income that can give them freedom, okay? Second way in which I can give you insight, hey, is your donation, are you giving it all away? Are you giving 90% of your money and that's what you're feeling? Or is it 10%? Get clear about how generous your family is. Make it intentional. Somebody like Kyle, I know, is very intentional about giving 10% of his income every year, which is a lovely thing. Americans as a whole, we are very generous. We need to understand how much we're giving so we can make it a meaningful way to contribute value to our life, spiritually, family, etc. A third example I can give you, and this is the number one issue in the country, is overspending. If you ask someone, hey, what's your burn rate? You might as well speak Chinese to them. They have no idea what you're saying. What's your burn rate monthly, annually? Most families don't have clarity in that number. So if you want clarity in that number, you need to understand what is it costing you to live your life. If that number is too big or greater than your income and you're living in deficit, there's not even a way to start this. There's no point to start a wealth conversation. So we need to make sure that we manage, just like in a business, our family's a business, our spending, so we get to keep in savings a portion of everything we earn, because those savings, my friends, is what allows you to own and control assets in your balance sheet. This full picture here will help diagnose anyone in our team quickly, opportunities that you have to make things even better, even if you're thriving with your money so far.
Going through this for yourself, in a matter of minutes, you will see exactly what has been causing the financial pressure and why it feels like, hey, we're not getting far enough ahead fast enough. Yeah. You'll see it right away, clear as day.
Yeah. So we've just talked about how we can help you understand current position is what Wade calls this, which I love, is where does the bridge start? And this will be probably more value than most financial advisors can give you. It's you being the leader and being aware of where you are. So if you haven't done this, highly encourage you. One more perspective, Kyle. That's savings number. Why is this important? Why do we not stop talking about this?
The inconvenient truth is average Americans are saving less than 5% of the income that flows through their life. As of March of this year, the personal savings rate was below 4%. So what good is having all this income, passive and active, if we're not keeping more of it? Not enough is translating over to our balance sheet so it can be saved properly and then invested intentionally. So we got to change some of the habits. And we do that by encouraging you to eliminate low value spending. If we can get more intentional with the money flowing through our lives and cut out the stuff you really don't care about, you automatically get to save more without interrupting a lot of the lifestyle, which anytime I can maintain my lifestyle and save more money, I'm gonna opt for that option. It is possible, but you have to have the right savings method, and you'll learn about that in our Tough Money workbook. So you got to get between 10 and 30% of your income saved. David, the inconvenient truth is if we can't save 10% of our income, you just won't have enough time to get to your financial goal.
No.
It's just, you can't do it.
Yeah.
the habits aren't there. It's literally the first step you got to take if you want to win the money game.
Yeah. And all of you, by the way, being part of our community, this curriculum is completely complimentary to all of you. It's a matter of you asking and getting access to it. So please take us up on that. I cannot stress this enough. 10 to 30%. The most successful people we serve are saving 30% or more. It's what unlocks everything in terms of possibilities. So when you have your completed analysis of current position, now we need to bring you some insight into how you would use this information and what to do next, because that's probably what all of you want to know being part of this call. So first thing we're going to do is this Tough Money curriculum, this workbook should be a business plan you're putting together for you to be intentional about your relationship with money. When you complete this, you should be able to translate this to the key performance indicator of the business plan you're going to follow in your family. You're going to know current position for a lot of things. Hey, your income, your expending, your savings rate, your liquidity, your monthly burn rate, your days of liquidity, how your balance sheet is composed. And knowing where you are, it's what actually starts to allow you to set a destination in more detail. It's now not just net worth and days and income in the future in 10 years. Is, hey, what would be required in terms of savings, liquidity for me to start building that future? This is a very powerful exercise. If you don't have this level of clarity, we all at Factum wake up and go to bed thinking about doing this for you. Take us up on that, please. Okay. I'm going to take it a step up, which is what everybody wants to talk about, Kyle. So we just established, hey, everyone in the call is unique. Some of us are worth $75,000. Some of us are worth $15 million. Are we playing the same game? And the answer is no. We are playing very different games, Kyle.
So once you do that path of money analysis and you figure out, okay, where am I starting? Now it becomes a game of which level am I actually in? How do we identify that? And then how do we use this, David, to know what are the next best moves for us to make financially?
Yes.
So anything lower than 100,000, we classify that level 1. Anything between 100,000 and a million in net worth is level 2. Anything from a million to 10 million is level 3. Anything over 10 million is going to be level 4. And let's use this top 10% American family we were just doing that path of money analysis for. They have $150,000 income. $50,000 of their net worth is liquid. Their current net worth is $840, so we would put them in a level 2 category. And this family comes to us and says, we need to go from $840 to $3 million because that will unlock enough passive income for us to fund the ideal life. So the next natural question is there any difference in financial strategy to go from level 1 to 2 to 3 to 4? And I think everyone instinctively knows yes.
Immediately.
It's going to change almost everything you're doing in the wealth game. I think the best way we've heard this been phrased, David, is what got you here will not get you there. What got you over 100,000 of net worth is not going to get you to $1 million. It requires different teams, different skill set, different strategies.
Yeah, this is so important and so intuitive. I make this comment every time as a little joke, but we all know that looking forward, at the next level, we likely need a different mindset, different team, different processes. What got me here won't get me there. It would be really hard for us to look at this person, this family, man, they've hustled to get to 840, Kyle, working really hard. Would we advise them that to get to $3 million, they take an extra job driving an Uber at night?
If you've almost built $1 million net worth, going out and making another $10,000, $20,000 per year actively is not getting you to that next level.
It might have been something you do at 50,000, but the progression requires a different level of advice, sophistication, team, mindset. And this is why these levels are important. So we're playing a succession of consecutive games that are different requirements for us to become capable of creating this level of abundance. This is really important because the moment now you have that, Kyle, you can go back to your path of money analysis and say, hey, this is where our current net worth is, 840, $3 million target. So now we're going from green to red, Kyle. And my 2 tools to do that are my income and my liquidity. It's going to create clarity for progression. Now, what does that even mean, David? What is that? What do we do with this? The next question, hey, what's my net worth? What's the next level? The next question you should all be asking us is, what is my next move? What is my next move? If I want to go from 840, Kyle, and I want to build $3 million of future target net worth, what do I do next? And Kyle, most people feel like this. As a matter of fact, if you're in the chat, Or if you are on camera, raise your hand or give me a yes or a no if this is what it feels like when you think about the target you wrote at the top of your sheet or you thought of in your net. If you don't have the sheet, if you wrote down for your goal, give me a yes or a no if this is what it feels like to create progression towards that next step. Okay, we have one yes. Yes. Let's see if there's somebody that feels super, super clear about what's next.
I mean, if you just think about, man, what would it be like when we're worth 10 million bucks?
Yeah.
What does someone even do that's worth $10 million? If you're newer to the wealth game or in levels 1 or 2, you know, what do people do? We've got clients that are worth $100 million right now, David.
Mm-hmm.
We do have good insights into the world that they live in and what they do. But even at that level, there is some uncertainty of like how we even, what's the next thing we should be focusing on? I mean, hasn't really been a solid roadmap, but we've put a lot of this data together now and tested this so many times so that we have our own source of truth for this stuff.
Yeah.
But this is what the majority of Americans feel like when they're trying to scale up the wealth framework, our tough money levels. And so being able to take all this and say, how do we make sense of this? And all the work we just did with that path of money actually gives you all the clues on exactly what you should be focused on next. And once you see the blueprint, you'll never be able to unsee this. And now suddenly you're in a position to move from level 1 to 2 to 3 in so much less time. And the best part is with way less risk.
Yeah. Is this 100% perfect? No, of course not. We know that. But is it better than living in this? Let me ask you all of that. And I hope it's a big fat yes for all of you. Of course, uncertainty is really scary and keeps people stuck. This gives us a model for us to follow. It's built on the wisdom of a lot of people that are ahead of the road from us. And it gives us the ability to focus and progression, because the better question that we should ask is not what's the next move, is what's my individual next best move? How do I discern here? I'll tell you, this is difficult for the following reason. A lot of people look at the sky and get distracted with the shiny objects. We want to create a capital preservation strategy, but we're worth $100,000. And it's really difficult because we constantly measure ourselves against those things. And all it makes us feel is the gap. It's very discouraging. So we need to be okay in giving ourselves grace to say, I'm going to put that down. I'm going to focus on what I need to focus on right now. The other problem, people that are at level 2, level 3, forget to take care of the fundamentals. They get too fancy and they forget that their saving strategy, their liquidity, their protection strategies is what got them there.
Yep.
So you need to focus, you need to find the level that makes this conversation significant and relevant for your life to continue to create progress, to grow into the next conversation you want to be a part of. So we're going to give you the psychology of the things we talk at every single one of these levels for you to start to see what things may be things that you need to bring into your life. If you're level 2, 3, and 4, please do not dismiss the value of getting clear about what level 1 requires. I think Wade wanted to say something. Yes, sir.
Yeah. David, can you go back one slide? I want to make a point to something that you're just saying right here. So just notice, like even with the blue, once you've achieved that and you move to level 2 and you move to level 3, the foundation piece does not go away. And the intensity might not be there. You might have already addressed those, but attention to that should never go away. And same with the green. Once you've achieved that level, maybe you've moved to level 3, the green part of that foundation doesn't go away. Again, the intensity and you still should need to focus on it, but maybe not nearly as much. And so please just note that those things are all still important in that matrix.
Yeah. So we're going to go a little fast through this. And by the way, and we have a recording of this that is going to go automatically to everyone, but just pay attention. You'll be able to pick up cues that Kyle described as he shows this 4 progressions. So Kyle, level 1, we have less than $100,000 on net worth. What would you start the conversation with?
Notice on the left side of the screen, we have active income and we have liquidity. I would not even start investing into this category. You got to get the fundamentals down. Don't skip the saving step and go automatically to investing because you don't have the right path of money. So here, the greatest methods to get you out of level 1 as fast as you can is go optimize your business and your active income. And while you're getting better at making a higher active income, you have to get the savings rate down and get that money stored in the right environments. So let me put it to you this way. If someone had $10,000 accumulated, David, and they said, I'm going to go invest the $10,000 at this stage into the stock market, and they got a 10% return. A 10% return on 10,000 bucks is $1,000. Is $1,000 in someone's wealth plan changing their life at this stage?
Nope.
Not even close. But if you took $10,000 and you said, I'm going to invest into 4 masterminds this year, could you go to a mastermind that teaches you how to run a more effective HVAC company? Could we go to a mastermind and learn more about insurance and increase our active income by $30,000 or $40,000 next year? The reality is all of us could do that by increasing our own skill set in whatever we're doing for active income. It's your greatest wealth building tool to get you out of level 1 and into level 2.
So that's psychology of level 1. Now, when we get to level 2, we're talking about somebody between $100,000 at $1 million, and obviously there's a distribution there. But we go from that active income to now thinking about, hey, maybe we can deploy and get more efficient. So how do you think about this level 2, Kyle?
Level 2, this is when you're making more money, and you have to be way more intentional with the money flowing through your life. So keep in mind, you're already a good saver. But now we're starting to understand, my need for insurances. Maybe that's life insurance, could be home and auto insurance. You might have some debt that's been accrued now. You might own a primary mortgage, might have some vehicles, some credit cards, some business debt, student loan debt, whatever it is. You're probably starting to invest at this point. Notice we added a little bit of passive income over there on the left side of the screen. This is the appropriate time to start investing because you got the foundational money habits down. And this is when you want to get more intentional with your tax strategy. So we want to help you what's called eliminate low value spending. This is when you're starting to assemble your wealth team. So you're going to need certain people that are going to help you analyze the insurances you own. That's home and auto and life insurance, debt on interest, your investments, and the IRS. Odds are all of those things are not performing optimally here. So the sooner you can go address those issues and make sure you're not, overspending on low value items, the better. And you can convert all that to savings. And this is when you have to start implementing a very intentional liquidity strategy.
Yes.
If you nail that one here, you will continue to move very quickly up the tough money levels. This is when you start investing, and you've got to get better with taxes because this is when you're making more money, and the tax strategies will actually hit a lot harder for your wealth plan than trying to do this too early in the money game.
Yeah, you'll notice here liquidity, not just for protection, it's dry powder for opportunity. If we're going to invest, we need to feel that. So this is when we get more intentional about that. Kyle, level 3, these people are all about now leverage, increasing the passive income. We're talking about getting to $10 million in net worth. The game is completely different and is probably the hardest stage to overcome here.
This one, notice how different the strategy is here. It totally shifts in this stage to protection and risk mitigation. Now we got to get our estate plan up and running, protect the assets, make sure we're organized properly so that we're not getting obliterated with taxes and people are not coming after us. This is when you want to get intentional with your balance sheet allocation. So notice our passive income on the left is now getting larger. Your passive income at this stage might be beating your active income.
Yeah.
And it's because you have enough volume of assets working for you. Now, if you can get $3 million working for you at 10%, that's $300,000 a year. That could start beating your active income here. And this is where we want to get intentional with take off the lowest producing investments you have, convert those to cash, and then redeploy that into better investments in the future. And this is a game you're going to play forever after that.
Yeah.
You will constantly play that game. This is when you jump into advanced tax strategy. You're probably going to have to upgrade some of your wealth building team members here. And this is when you're really starting to cultivate leadership, stewardship into the culture of your wealth plan.
Just a quick note for all of you. You notice that savings and borrowing was a conversation for level 1. That policy that you created, that you are a policy owner of, in level 1, maybe for savings, maybe you were the saver mentality of stage 1 of whole life ownership, is the same policy, the same asset that is going to play multiple roles at different level throughout your life. That's why we call it a forever asset, by the way. It might help you save more in stage 1. It may help you create liquidity at level 2. At level 3, we're talking about privacy, protection. We're talking about stewardship. It's a really fascinating asset. So be grateful again that maybe they use as an application that you started with are not yet exactly where they're going to end up being as you create more levels of wealth. Level 4 is going to be a progression. It's an institutional way of thinking about your wealth, family office. We're going to talk about preservation and risk management, diversification. These are some of our clients that are now thinking about how do we keep it for multiple generations. We add significant legacy. We maximize the value of this money, Kyle. And if you're at this level, we'd love to have a conversation with you to help you get to a more intentional level of building a team that can help you accomplish this, certainly. I'm going to take this back here, Kyle. I'm going to ask all of you, please consider having this conversation with us. This model is going to bring you a lot of clarity on how to sequence and allocate time for this activity properly. Just like the path of money with dollars, your attention and time is really important for you to get intentional about your wealth plan. And one of the ways in which we can help you dig into these details is this Fact and 5 questions. A lot of you have seen this before. I'm not going to go into detail of them, but these 5 questions, Kyle, are really important because they connect the top money levels with this path of money. Question 1, hey, how much money do you need to be earning passively for you to have the life, to live the life you've always wanted? What a fascinating question. This should be the end in mind, right? $120,000 a year will set me free, David. How much should you be saving in order to accomplish that goal of passive income, David? 10% or more, 20, 30. You need to get very clear, and the answers here need to be, I am 100% sure that this is the number I need to start developing in my financial plan. Question 3, how much cash you should have in cash reserve to protect your family and business or to have dry powder for opportunity? It's a fascinating question. Most people don't know what that number needs to be. We can certainly give you clarity around that. The most important thing we can do for you, which is our expertise, where should I be storing this cash reserves for me to maximize the benefit this money deserves? If you are not clear about that, and I hope all of you being part of our community are getting more and more clear about this every day, life insurance, whole life insurance in particular, properly designed, is the best environment. And we say this with a lot of confidence. So please use your curiosity right now to store this cash reserves because it maximizes the benefits that your money deserves. And finally, if I'm doing this properly in the right sequence, how do I rate my tough money habits? These are questions that we would ask all of you. And the question that matters the most is at the bottom. Would I like to know for sure? This is a willingness conversation. Am I willing to grow into this conversation and become the person capable? I ask this question as the most important part because the work comes after that. The individual work needs to be unique for you and your family. Do I need to work on my saving strategy, on my liquidity, on my balance sheet? Not everyone needs all these sheets at the same time, but you are going to have to do this work, and we're willing to help you to give you the guidance and the clarity. And these are the most important things that we're going to ask today, Kyle. I'm going to close it with this, and I'll pass it back to you. At the top right, we have a framework we call the urgency matrix. And the 2 questions we're going to ask you is how important and urgent is for you to achieve your goal? And it goes like this. First question is, how important is it? If this conversation that you've seen today is not important, I'm going to ask you, please give yourself grace. Realize that this is not your one thing right now. Go work on your business, on your active income, on spending time with your family and your health. I'm going to guess all of you being in this call, this is important. So I'm going to take it out of the page and I'm going to give you the second axis here. Is this urgent or not urgent? If this is not urgent, Gal, more than guidance, guidance looks like education. Excuse me, here. Seek some more courses. Go through the tough money. Go through our money mastery. Get educated. Put a financial statement together and visualize it, understand it. What does it mean? Right? Study yourself, your family, your finances. If this is both important and urgent, I'm telling you, implementation is what guidance looks like. You need to take action. You need to find what's next in your level, what actions are relevant and significant, and you need to go to work. Whether it's us, whether it's a member of our community that you need an introduction to, we will help you identify that. But you need implementation, you need action. And that will conclude how you get to this sheet. You mark your urgent and important, and you would have a full path of money analysis. This conversation may take 30 minutes. It will give you clarity that will serve you for years. I promise you that. We will not waste your time. We will give you a ton of clarity. If you and your wife are not on the same page about money, please allow us to be a mirror that brings clarity and perspective to your marriage, to your family. I beg you to do that. Kyle, with that being said, we've gotten to idea number 1 of our curriculum. The answer for why do my habits affect my wealth plan is simple. If you develop tough money, you'll have the preparation to confront any future event when, not if, when it happens. And that's what allows you to control that your habitual behavior is positively affecting your wealth building, Kyle. Any parting thoughts?
That's it. I mean, idea number 1, if you can't get the front part of your money down, you don't get to do any of the cool stuff later. And concepts like the internet banking concept, which we talk about in idea number 2, and whole life insurance, which we believe to be the toughest foundational asset, those products and those strategies will not serve you to their highest potential without getting your habits down in your wealth plan. So understanding that path of money analysis will give you the entire roadmap of what you're trying to achieve. It's also a great source of truth, David, because once you have that down and where you want to go, it's very easy to say no to the distractions of, I'm not willing to invest in that. That's not part of my philosophy. That doesn't serve me. And all of the answers become so clear. Yeah. And this is what's allowing you to move from point A to point B in less time with less risk. Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed the class tonight. Idea number 1 was coming to a wrap. So we'll stick around for a few more minutes and answer any questions that anyone has. If you have to hop off, I know we're right at the hour, so have a wonderful rest of your evening. And if you do have some questions, our team will stick around and answer whatever